say something?
Yes, it's doing a little cut, but we're on. My friend, it's such an honor to have you. You are kind of the missing puzzle of, the whole interview thing I'm doing for the radio show. I'm a huge fan since day one. And for people that don't recognize your voice or your face, who the hell are you, man?
I'm Ted Bond. I'm the lead singer of the band Craig's Brother.
Ted, there's new stuff coming our way. But before we get to that, maybe for people that unaware of the story of Craig Brothers, how that project started up, and what age were you when you started up Craig Brothers?
Oh, yeah. Well, we started in 1995. I was 18. Now I'm 45. So, so what's that? 27 years. I don't know. How did it start up? So, Andy Snyder, who was our original guitar player, he started the band. And they had a band called Liquid Amber. And Liquid Amber they were kind of more heavy metal. But
okay.
It wasn't really working out with their singer. And Andy had heard me sing and he liked it, so he asked me to join the band, and I joined the band. And actually, I think they changed the name to Craig's Brother right before I joined. And then the rest is history.
And before the first records, there was a demo.
Yeah, we put out a demo. I think it was in '96. With our first 4 songs. It had Divorce and Dear Charlotte on it, which are the ones that you would know from the records. It also had a couple of other songs. There was a song called Going Blind, which we put on Homecoming as well. And then it had the song Okie Dokie, which never made it to any records.
Wow.
Wait,
no. I'm sure.
No. It didn't have Divorce. And it didn't have Dear Charlotte. It had Going Blind, it had Okie Dokie, it had a song called Money, and it had a song called 22.
Wow.
So I don't know if you could hear those. We have a record called The Early Years that's available on wherever, iTunes or whatever, that has those songs on it.
Cool. Do you still have a tape from that era?
I think I might. Hold on.
It's money. It's near. It's not in the basement hiding somewhere. The gem is near, Ted.
It is. Here it is.
Wow. This is rad. Keep it for your retirement, and when you sell it on eBay, I'm sure you're gonna sell a lot. So your retirement plan's gonna be safe with that demo. That's crazy. Wow.
You know what though? We had the very first one we put out had this picture of Jesus, like pointing the way. The cover was a picture of like Jesus pointing some people in a car somewhere. It was like from the 50s. It was pretty funny.
Wow. So after that, Homecoming was released, and I was surprised when I heard you guys, because you were young when you released the records, but it's a really mature record for a first record for a punk rock band. And so how was the process of doing the records, and were you that mature actually?
So yeah, no, we weren't that mature, but so we were kind of shocked that we got signed, and then we had this opportunity to make a record. We're at West Beach Studios, which was where Bad Religion had recorded most of their stuff, and a bunch of our favorite bands had recorded there, and we just kind of freaked out. We were like so nervous about it that we overthought every detail. And you could hear it on the record. That's why the record, I think that's why it turned out so good, actually. Like, we were, in terms of songwriting, more prepared than we needed to be.
Wow.
So, yeah. And we also, were competing to get our songs on that record. So, I was writing songs, Andy was writing songs, Adam Nye was writing songs. And we were competing to get our songs on there. So, we were, the competition made us, I think, write better. And I think we each got about 4 songs. We got about 4 songs each. So yeah, all of those kind of went together, and the whole thing kind of came out better than we thought it would. And even after it came out immediately, like I wasn't all that impressed with it. When it first came out, I thought that it sounded like we ripped off Lagwagon Haas.
Oh,
I was like, this record is just a Haas ripoff. It's a complete Haas ripoff. And then I listened to it a few years later, and I'm like, no, it's not. It's better than Haas. No, sorry, Lagwagon. I love you.
Take that, Joey. Oh, I'm sure he would be laughing about that. But, I never felt that. It's really interesting. I'm going to listen to it with the different ears. But I used to listen to it a lot when I was in high school, when the album was released. I was in metal. I was really not into punk rock. And it's one of the few records that got my attention when I was at the party, because it was different from the rest. The voice, the spirit, and the energy was really different. And that's one of my friends told me, like, oh, they're 18 or they're kids. They're as young as us. And you shitting me? They wrote that records at that age. What am I doing with my life?
I know, right? Well, now there's all these, I hear about artists that are 18 and doing crazy stuff. And I think that's like, it's a good age to do that, because you have, like, there was nothing in my life to distract me from music at that point. I graduated high school. Well, I had a girlfriend, but I didn't have kids or, a job that I had to take too seriously, or a lot of bills to pay. And it was that way for all of us. So we practiced, we'd have these like 6-hour practices 3 times a week. I'm sure other bands have practiced more, but that was our schedule back then.
Yeah, and it takes a lot of discipline at that age, because you want to party, you meet new people. It's going very quick. Things are so fast, but you stick to it, and you release something that's still accurate to those days. So thank you for losing a couple of hours of your time creating something that punk rockers still love to those days. And there's people that's still discovering that records and the band. It's crazy.
You know what? It was all fun. We would practice for like maybe an hour, and then we'd skateboard for like 20 minutes, and then we'd go back in and practice for another hour, and then come back outside and skate a little more. That was just what we were, it was just hanging out with friends, pretty much playing music, and skateboarding was what it was all about. Until Andy, he ollied down like 6 steps, and he landed on his knee, and he just blew his knee out. And he couldn't skate anymore after that. And then after he stopped skating, we kind of all just didn't skate as much.
Oh shit! It like killed the vibe.
Yeah, it was like, well, he couldn't do it, so we weren't gonna, it just didn't seem, we weren't as likely to do it because we couldn't all do it. I was never that big of a skater. I think that was about the best that I ever got at skating, and I could maybe ollie up a curb or something. That's about as good as I got.
And I was the tour after the release of the records. Did you went out across the US? How was it after?
Okay, so our very first tour was actually, I don't know if we were signed yet. It was 1997. And we toured with this band called The Blamed that was signed to Tooth and Nail.
Yes.
And it was ridiculous. We did it was like 2 weeks. I think we played a total of like maybe 5 or 6 shows. And we drove like all the way across the continent. We drove from California to Florida and then back for like 5 shows. Then none of the shows were well attended. But then in 98, we toured for about a month. We toured with this band called the Huntingtons. That was a Tooth and Nail band. It was basically all Tooth and Nail bands. Or we toured with this all-girl band called the Halo Friendlies. If you ever touring with a band that's the opposite gender is so much nicer.
Yes.
It was just like, I don't know why. Like, you get sick of hanging out with the dudes. We'd trade, one of the girls would come in our van. One of us would go in their van. They would sit there and like do our hair before we played and stuff. It was funny. It was not like touring with every other touring experience is a bunch of stinky dudes. Those girls were really fun. And then there was another band that was on that tour. I think they were only on part of it. They were called 238, and that was the first emo band I'd ever heard.
Wow.
I think. I want to say they were the first emo band I'd ever heard. They were really good. Look them up, or if you're people who are listening, look up 238 if you like emo. They're really good. And then that was what happened? So then at the end of that tour, on that tour there was kind of some band tension. Andy and Adam, or particularly Adam, wasn't getting along with the rest of the band. Heath and Scott and I were kind of a little bit crazy. We were partying and, just kind of being crazy, and they didn't like that.
You were young.
Right. So at the end of the tour, Adam quit, and he convinced Andy to quit with him. So Adam and Andy left. Then we went through a period where we were having a hard time finding guitar players, but then we got this young guy from Jacksonville, Florida, by the name of Ryan Key.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Ryan got his friend Dan McClintock from Inspection 12 to come out. And 1999, we toured with Dan and Ryan. That was probably our biggest tour ever. We toured pretty much the whole summer. I think we did about 100 shows. And that was pretty great. But then at the end of that tour, Ryan quit. So then, it was like January, or no, I think it was March of 2000 that we recorded Lost at Sea, and it was just Dan doing all the guitars. We did it as a 4-piece, basically.
Oh, I love that records. I think at that time it was kind of underrated because there was so much release. There was a switch in punk rock. Big labels started to lose, their appetite for punk rock, and emo was going, like you said. So they took that wave and they just didn't renew contract with punk rock bands. So it kind of the beginning of the dark period for punk rock. So. Yeah. And I think that records was not, it was well received from the fans, and that's the thing. But it was not that exposure that now it has, and people are like, I love that records. I should have listened to it back in the days,
It's still probably, I would say, the most underrated Craig's Brother album. And it's really interesting when I think about what we were kind of feeling when we wrote that record. We were playing a lot of these local shows in Santa Cruz, and we actually had a pretty good following at that point in Santa Cruz. And the bands we were playing with were kind of more rock than punk, or maybe sort of emo, but mostly kind of more rock. And they influenced us a lot, so we kind of went a little bit more of a rock direction on that one.
Yeah, because it was different.
Yeah. And it's weird because when I look back, I mean, those bands were really great bands. They weren't when I say rock, it's hard to describe because they were there. It was this kind of unique Santa Cruz rock sound that was going on that it was really only going on in Santa Cruz, I think, like the way that the sort of direction these bands were going. And we kind of felt like, this is the way music's going. Like, we're on board with this. And then it didn't. Music did not go that direction.
No.
So whatever, we weren't trying to make a record to be popular necessarily. Like we're doing what inspires us, but it's just funny when I think about what we were feeling at that moment, because when we came back actually there's still a little bit of that kind of influence on Epidemic, which was the EP we made in 2004. You can hear kind of some, like the song 10,000 Miles. I don't know if there's a double time beat in that song. Maybe there's like the downbeat. So we were still kind of feeling that direction. But then by the time we made Insidious Lie in 2010, we were like, let's just go back to fast double time skate punk. And that's kind of, I think, where we're still at.
it was a return to the roots, but it was still different because you grow up, and with the experience and the change in the lineup, it was really interesting records. But yeah, it was getting back to your punk rock roots. But that's what I think interesting about Craig Brothers, and that's what I'm looking in music now. Maybe it's because I grow up or whatever, but I love when a band took a directions, but the following up of that, I'm less interested in hearing all those bands that sound the same. I'm looking for a band that do something different each time, that take risk, and still do it with the passion and the desire of changing the music scene, and just putting something that's gonna be cool for not just the fan but everybody, and that I respect a lot. And like I said, I'm sure I'm not the only one looking for that.
Yeah, you got to develop in your songwriting. I think that's important. Though at this point in my life, I consider myself really fortunate that I have a sound, like there's a sound that Craig's Brother sounds like, that my songs sound like, people know it. Not every musician can say that.
It's true. It's true. And, I think that when you release, I think in 2011, The Insidious Lie, it was the internet. Everything had changed, and people got the time to discover you guys. And I'm sure you were surprised the amount of new fans and just the following up, and like where you were when we were at the beginning. But still, I think the internet, a lot of people wanted to discover those gems that they missed, because there was so much release at the end of the 90s and beginning of 2000 that a lot lost the track, and there was no internet or anything.
Yeah, that record, Insidious Lie, has it hasn't gotten anywhere near as much attention as Homecoming and even Lost at Sea. Like a lot of Craig's Brother fans don't even know it exists.
I'm surprised.
I know, it's a bummer. Well, we released it ourselves. We didn't have any label promoting it. So I think that kind of is a big reason why. At that point we were like, well, labels are a thing of the past. We don't need record labels anymore. We could just put out our own records. Now I've come full circle. I'm like, well, actually we do need a record label, because I can't promote this all by myself. And we want to get it into the hands of the people who like our music. So, and not only that, everybody takes you more seriously when you have a record label.
Yeah,
you're not signed like all the industry, like whatever, Spotify or whoever. They just don't take you as seriously. And we're in a world now. It really seemed like in 2010 and in the 2000s, like the internet was this. Like the great equalizer, right? Like anybody could put anything on the internet and it could go viral and you could go get big or something. And it doesn't seem that way anymore, Now you're like trying to get on a Spotify playlist and hoping that the curators like your song or something. And who the heck are these curators anyway? Like some nerd who got a job at Spotify and now they're deciding who goes big. Which, I mean, to be fair, I feel like that's kind of the way it was before the internet, or at least before music was distributed over the internet. Like when you had to get signed to a record label to put out a CD, you were hoping that whoever was listening to the CDs at the record label wasn't just some nerd, but more often than not, they were.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. Behind the industry and everything, there's a lot of people that don't really care about the band. And that's what you want to find, a label where those guys want to work with you and they understand the spirit of the band and the direction you want to go, and just do their job and expose the band, not just to post on Facebook, oh, the record is out, that's it. No, like the thing is, I call the social media the monster. And if you want to keep the monster alive, you have to feed them constantly. And if you stop feeding them, you're disappearing. You're not in the algorithm of Facebook or whatever. So you always have to be, there. The name have to be tagged, and and you need people for that. And that's cool, because we're in a point that with the crash of the industry in a way, there's a lot of label out there that have the spirit of the beginning of the punk rock movement that really want to help and change things and doesn't really care about money. People of punk rock, Thousand Island Records, Stomp Records. There's good example here in Quebec that
Yes.
they are devoted and they understand the band. They just want them to go on tour and just see them, around here because it costs a lot. And that's when you need people and fans.
I have to say, People of Punk Rock is my favorite record label that we've ever worked with. Tooth and Nail, we had kind of a shaky relationship with them. I don't think they necessarily fully got what we were doing. And, they were involved in the Christian alternative music scene pretty heavily. And we kind of were literally giving that scene a middle finger. Like, we actually got in trouble because there was a picture of Juice flipping off the camera. Because it just seems so fake. And this whole, pretending that you don't say bad words and that you don't drink and that you don't smoke pot and that you're not like, whatever, like you don't have a sex life or something. All of that everybody was pretending. It was like you guys are, we knew all the bands and it's like, you guys love to party. You're just like any other band and you're just calling yourself Christian because it gets you these shows and all these kids come to your shows just because you say you're Christian, which, I don't know. I can't say the scene was completely bad. Like there were a lot of really fun shows and there were some pretty good bands that came out of it. Like MXPX, Slick Shoes. But all of those bands and I should say all of us have kind of like distanced ourselves since then. Yeah, 90-pound wuss. Yeah. Because the whole thing was so cringy. But we were distancing ourselves almost from the very beginning.
Yeah. And I totally understand that because I repeat myself, but at a young age, you're not there. You just want to have fun. You don't want to settle yourself in something that for life. And like you said, playing with the image of you're a clean person and there's nothing bad happened to you. You follow the step of Jesus and God. And I'm a Christian born, but I don't, I'm a fan of bad religion. I don't care about religions, but I respect people that believe in God. I don't want to disrespect them. But the thing is, at that time, at that age, I think it's a huge statement to make, like being straight edge, like Minor Threat. I respect them for sticking to it. But like Brian Baker said to me, at one point, I want to distance myself from that. I wanted to party. And he actually told me in an interview, I wanted to do coke. I
think there's I don't know if you read or listened to the audiobook of the No Effects book, what is it, like the hepatitis bathtub or something like that? At one point they mentioned like doing coke with Brian Baker. And he's like, I invented straight edge. I think it was Brian Baker. But that's pretty funny.
It was. He wanted to. It was like I reached the point of I am a rock star. I want to have fun. I want to party. And, and with the Minor Threat thing, I've got so young involved in something that was way bigger than me and that what I wanted when I grew up. So, and now he's clean and everything, he's back to it. But like he said, when you're 40, 50s, it's not the same party. The morning, get you remember that,
well,
so.
And when I was that age, like 17, 18, like, I wasn't, I guess I partied a little bit, experimented with drinking, and I didn't like smoking pot at all. And the idea of just getting together with my friends and working hard on music and skateboarding was much more exciting to me than getting together with a bunch of drunk people. And I think that's where I relate to straight edge. But as I got a little bit older, and especially on tour, you're exhausted. You just poured your heart out on stage. Like you want a beer, or something. After I perform, I want to drink almost every time now. It's just part of it. So yeah, I don't know. I think it was just an age thing for me, and I imagine it was for them. But you know what? I want to go back to what we were talking about with the whole Christian music scene. So we got together. We were serious about our faith. And the band was kind of like we all had the same faith. We were praying together. Our faith was motivating us to do it better. We felt that God had called us to do this. But when we started writing songs, and we did go through a period where we're like, we're going to be a Christian band. But then after we started writing our first few songs and we recorded our first demo, we kind of took a listen to it and we're like, this isn't Christian music. This is just punk rock. Like, and if anything, when we talk about Christianity, it's not Christian propaganda. We're not trying to convince people to be better Christians or to become a Christian. If anything, we're criticizing Christians and criticizing the church. So we quickly realized that our role, we weren't Christian music, even if we wanted to be. But then we started thinking about the whole, like, why does music have to be Christian? Like, since when is any business Christian? And there are these businesses that say they're Christian, like Chick-fil-A or something is a Christian fast food. Like, what the heck? Like, it's just a business. There's nothing, Jesus has nothing to do with chicken sandwiches.
Yeah.
But people, and the real reason businesses call themselves Christian is because it's a marketing ploy. You sell your product to Christians. And we quickly realized that was just it's just nasty. We didn't want to be a part of that. It was
punk rock.
Yeah, and it's not punk. And we're making music for punks, and we'd rather play with a bunch of non-Christian punk bands and rather play at a show where, punks are being punks and doing crazy punk stuff than a show that's, faking it. Or a place. I mean, really what Christian rock was a safe place. Parents could send their teenagers to some safe place and they could be confident that they weren't having sex and doing drugs. And we were like, no, we want to play for the kids who are having sex and doing drugs. So that was that whole thing.
And that was a cool scene too. You were part of something that was so big when you started up, and when we see now NoFX or Bad Religion, as we name it, at their peak of their career, still, it's crazy, man. And the beautiful thing, it's a wave, and it's in 2010, 2011, everything start to get in place for the wave we're right now. And with the pandemic, everything's gonna be crazy. And it started up. I went to show for the last 3 months. It is crazy.
It's coming back. It's coming back totally. Same in Santa Cruz. I sent an article to Anthony from People of Punk Rock about what's been going on in Santa Cruz. It was in like the local paper. This hardcore scene has just blown up, and it's like getting national attention. Bands like Drain. I don't know if I'm trying to think of some of the other band names, but I think it's poised to come back everywhere. Oh, and when we played our last show in Santa Cruz in September, the young kids, which really surprised me, I think of our audience now as a bunch of old people, but there were all these young kids, and they were super into Craig's Brother. It was a shock, and it was also really encouraging to see that the kids they want to come out and they want to listen to punk rock, and they know about the scene and the history of it in Santa Cruz. So yeah, it's coming back for sure.
Yeah, and like I said to tons of band, I did many interviews with really young kids, beginning of their 20s, playing ska, playing folk punks, whatever, and they're there. And like, people, get ready. The energy is coming back, because those kids got energy, and they're in their 20s. They're furious of doing something with their music, and it's going to be crazy in the 2 years. They got time to record crazy songs, beautiful melody. So we're there. It's going to explode everywhere, and it's what the scene needed, because at that, I think before the pandemic, it was kind of the running gag. It was the same name over and over again, which is cool. I love those bands. But I saw some of them more than 20 times. And so we need the time, that switch in the scene where there's new headliners, new band getting more attention.
Definitely. I was thinking, and I don't know if this is true. I couldn't decide whether it was true, but I was thinking that one thing I love about punk rock, I think this is true. Like, if you go and register your music with BMI or whatever, punk isn't even a category. You have to pick like rock or alternative or something, right? Yeah. So, but I was thinking what's great about that is that punk has never like gotten so big that people could really get sick of it. Kind of in the late 90s, it got pretty big. There's a few bands, The Offspring or Green Day, that have like crossed that line into radio rock. But for the most part, your average person doesn't even really know what punk is. Which means that there's an opportunity for it to come back, and it does. It's been coming back, you know, late 70s, or what, it was like mid 70s even, like it kind of blew up, and then it died out, and then early 80s it came back, and then it died out, and then in the 90s it came back, and then it kind of faded away, and now it's coming back again. I think it's able to do that because we don't blow out the market by going, you know, full radio, being played every day on the, you know, everywhere you turn you hear the music. So that's kind of a good thing about punk rock.
Yeah, because that's the main problem, I think. You know, it's a choice. As a band, you have that choice at some point if you have the talent and the songs, which you credit. You just go on the radio, they're going to burn the songs. People going to get fucking tired of hearing them. When I heard Enter Sandman, the first night, I go crazy. I cannot listen to that song anymore of my life. It's just burned out. And I don't hate the songs. It's a fucking good songs, but the radio burning up, and that's the problems. And you're gonna have those people that gonna be there for records, and then you're gonna leave. It's just the mainstream is going so fast, and one day you're just off the track. Or you choose, like you did, you choose that art path that it takes 15, 20 years, but then you look at your fans, they're really solid. They buy every record, they buy shirts when they go to shows, and they're there every fucking time you're in town. And I think for me, that's the most beautiful success you cannot have, you know, just getting those people to take their time and their money to just help you out because they believe in you and you have that talent, you know, and that they have faith in the band and they're part of the family. And I think the Craig Brothers thing is all about that. And wow. And, you know, it's not everybody.
You froze up. But we didn't lose the connection. See what happens here. I'm going to go check on my internet. I don't know if you can still hear me, but.
And put my my LTE, so I'm sure I think it was from me, actually. I don't know. So yeah, there's a new records coming on People of Punk Rock. It's a 4-song records. There's actually one single out. I'm curious, is it more easy with time now to do new songs, create new songs with the experience, or it's still a huge challenge for you?
That's a good question. I mean, I've been thinking about this a lot because but a lot of these were songs that I've been, you know, it's just sitting around unfinished for years. Like some of these songs I started writing back in the Homecoming days. So on the one hand, I guess it's become like I've gotten better at finishing songs and better, you know, I don't know. I know it's like the formula is there or whatever. But on the other hand, it's so much harder the way my life is right now. I've got so much more going on. I'm working 3 jobs. I got 3 kids. I'm married. It's crazy. So that in that sense, it's way harder. It's way harder to find the time to do it. But yeah, I have gotten better at completing songs over the years. I don't take it like it used to be. I would kind of freeze up, get writer's block, and you know, if it wasn't perfect, it wasn't, you know, I couldn't go forward. Then I finally realized I'm just overthinking about it. It's a song, you know, just write it and decide if it's good afterwards, which I would do sometimes in the past. But like Insult to Injury was kind of like that, if you can believe that. way back early in the day, Andy and I we set a certain date, like a month out or something. And we said, we're each going to complete a song by this day. And so I just completed Insult to Injury. Didn't really I didn't know if it was good or not. And turned out to be pretty good.
Yeah, it is. And it's like you said, it's always a discipline and a dynamic that you have to put, yourself to. And it's not easy, but with times you get more used to it. And I think it's getting more easy in that way, but still you challenge yourself to do something that it's good. And that is pretty tough.
Yeah. Yeah. So this record has, it's a lot of, there's some really old songs on it. There's some newer songs on it. So you'll hear kind of some more Homecoming sounding stuff, and then you'll hear some stuff that sounds pretty different from anything we've done before.
Wow, it's really interesting.
Actually, you know what? I need to be clear. We have a 14-song record that we just finished tracking. That needs to be mixed still. The 4 songs that came out, those are pretty... so 3 of them are out already. There's Fake Book, there's All the Way, and then we just put out Yellow Cardboard.
Cool.
I think those are pretty straightforward Craig's Brothers songs. Like, not, it's all punk rock. We're not really doing anything that we didn't do in the past. And then the song we have coming out is I don't even know what we called it. Unhappy or something, or Are You Unhappy Still? That one is a song that I started writing back in the Homecoming days.
Okay.
So it has kind of a Homecoming feel to it.
Wow. That's cool. And, I always imagine those band writing 25 songs for their masterpiece and just release it 12 and just keep it, somewhere hidden for 20, 25 years like the Descendants did and just release it. And just the fans get back in time like where it was at their prime with their classic lineup. And you're just, whoa.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome that the Descendants did that. Yeah, so this isn't quite like that because those songs weren't finished. It's a different lineup, but kind of.
The vibe is there, and that's, I think, what is important about that, to keep that vibe of that era, that classic era that, forged the band of what's coming up, because I'm sure everybody that was in Craig Brothers brings something to the band that make you where you are today with that, that experience and all those memories.
Definitely.
There's a lot of stuff on People of Punk Rock that people can buy. Of course, you're going to be at the Red Bridge, and we invite people of buying the more merch you can. Let's do a challenge.
Yeah, who can buy the most merch?
Yeah, that will be cool.
we just got some skateboard decks that are pretty cool. I don't know if you saw. Yeah, those are awesome. I don't have an image to share. I don't know. I don't even know how to share an image, but maybe you can throw it up when you're editing or something.
Yeah, I think I've got them here. But yeah, there's 3 of them. They're looking amazing. Actually, I've got one there.
Oh, yeah. There you go.
They're really beautiful and cheap price. So, of course, buy it. And yeah, how did you find out about People of Punk Rock?
Okay, so we put out Devils in the Details. And they approached us because they wanted to do the vinyl of Devils in the Details. And we were like, sounds great. That's good. That sounds good to us. So that's how we established a relationship with them, was with Devils in the Details, and them doing the vinyl. And then when we were talking to record labels for this record, they just were the most willing to work with us and the most excited about having us. And we already, had it go well with Devils in the Details, so we just decided to stick with them.
It's a killer EP. I love it. I call it an EP. It's almost a record. How many songs are 6 or
5
7?
songs. I'd call it an EP too. Yeah.
Yeah, because I throw the question: what is an EP? What define an EP and a full length? And it's about timing. I think if it's 20 minute more or something like that, 18 minute more is just it's considered a EP. It's not the matter of how many songs. It's how
It's
long.
about time, yeah. It was so it means extended play. And back in the in the days of vinyl when vinyl was all you could get, there would be singles and there would be LPs, long play, and then an extended play was kind of in between. It was like a single with a few extra songs. Kind of an outdated term, I think, nowadays, but
Yeah, but in a weird way, we're kind of getting back at it with
yeah, now that vinyl's coming back, right?
Yeah, and they released a single, and then some band released like you did, like you're gonna do a 4 song EP, and then you got the full end. So it's a wheel. It's just so different now, but
it's true. It's true.
So you guys gonna be at the Red Bridge. That I cannot wait for that festival. The lineup is crazy. We're talking about good people. People of punk rock are behind that. They're Vincent and Amelie, which is our two rad human being, and they're so dedicated. And you're gonna love the place. I tell you, you're gonna be surprised, but it sounds so perfect because of all the trees and everything. You're gonna love it. It's really special.
That's awesome. Yeah, I can't wait. We're super excited. Who am I most excited to see? I think Strung Out and Polly are the two bands that I'm super excited to see.
I would say No Fun at All and Satanic because they're playing two of their classical records.
That's true. Yes. Yes.
So,
Satanic Surfers are great. No Fun at All is great. It'd be great to see those guys again. We haven't seen them since we toured with them in '99.
wow. And I never saw Jagged Revenge, so they're on my list. And of course, it's going to be the second time for me seeing you guys. So, yeah, I'm really excited about the lineup. And you're going to love the spirit. You know, the Quebec spirit vibe. But there at that place, it's a really small, it's not a town, actually. It's a really small village. And yeah, and then there's a place where they're doing the best poutine in the whole Quebec. I think it's a Moulin Rouge. I'm not sure. But they're doing like
they have the best poutine in Quebec.
Yes,
oh, wow.
They do.
All right. Well, then we definitely want to go there.
Dad, yeah.
So you didn't see us in 2004? In 2004, we played in Quebec City. It was a festival. It was downtown. It was raining that day. But when we played, everybody the whole day was under the overhangs, on the side of the street. But when we played, everybody came out in the street into the rain and was moshing it. They were moshing in the rain, and that was a great show. Every time we played in Quebec City, it's been amazing. Honestly, the best show ever.
I remember there was a show that there was like 2 shows, one in the PM and one at night, and you were on the bill. I'm not sure if you were playing, during the PM or after 18. 18.
We played pretty late. I think we were like second to last. I think Sam I Am headline.
Yeah. They were there.
Yeah.
I remember clearly the flyers, seeing the flyers, and I missed that show. I don't know why. Surely I was working or something, but yeah, I missed that show. So that's why the Villarium was really important for me, to catch you there. I never saw you, and it was such a cool show. My little girl was there. She finished the show on my shoulder because the place was like that, and there was a huge storm, and there was so much water. I've got like my socks were wet and everything. We were like in a pool.
That's crazy. Yeah, that was a fun show.
And it's gonna be crazy to have you back, Ted. You're really generous of your time. It's a huge honor. I mean it. I said that at the beginning. I'm a fan. And can't wait to hear the new stuff. And of course, we invite people, encourage the band. If you can now, do it now. Order online on peopleofpunkrock.com, or just go to shows and buy merch, whatever you can. And if you don't have fucking money, I get it. We're punk. Just learn the song and sing damn loud.
Yes. Yeah. Come to our show. Sing loud if you're in Quebec. Also, here's a little preview of what we're about to do. We're doing a little fundraiser to help pay for mixing. We're done with tracking. What it's going to be is there's just 2 items. You can get a skateboard, 2 T-shirts, a skateboard, 2 T-shirts, and a handwritten lyric sheet.
Wow.
For $100. Or you could get all 3 skateboards, 2 T-shirts, and a handwritten lyric sheet for $200.
Wow.
So yeah, we're gonna put that up pretty soon here in the next couple days, and if you guys want to support us and help us get this music out as soon as possible, please go buy some skateboards and some T-shirts.
We will, and it's so important because with the gas raising and everything, it's tough for the band getting here. So we want you back here in Quebec as many times as you can. So people, that's the best way. Directly encourage the band, go see them live. And I'm sure there's going to be other shows. Is there anything released outside the Red Bridge?
We don't have anything booked outside Red Bridge. It's kind of weird right now because Steven is like the man of all talents. He's playing drums for us currently. Well, actually, he's going to be playing guitar at Red Bridge. But Steven moved to Germany.
Oh.
So the rest of us are in California. He's in Germany. So we got to find someone to fill in for him for local shows. If we come back to Canada, he'll come. It's actually cheaper for him to fly to Canada than it is for us. But yeah, that makes it kind of hard. But Eric, thanks for having me on. I'm glad we finally got to do this. We've been talking about it for a while.
Yeah, I think I reached you in 2011 through MySpace when I started up the show in 2008. So yeah, and you sent me a couple of records, and thank you for that. And we spoke at the Villarium, and man, thank you so much for the friendship. I'm gonna wait for you. It's gonna be in a month. There's still tickets, but few. It's gonna be sold out.
Selling out?
Yeah, man, it's gonna be sold out in a couple of weeks, I'm sure. Don't wait the day of the show. You're gonna be maybe disappointed. But yeah, it's gonna be one of the greatest festival out here in Quebec. And again, go encourage the band, and I'm keep you posted when I hear the interview. I will have Vincent live at the show that day. Make sure I send all the details. And thank you, Ted.
Of course, Eric. Yeah, no problem. It was fun.
Thank you. Cheers.
Cheers. Have a good one. We'll see you in a month.
Hell yeah. Red Bridge.
It's going to be great. All right, Eric, I'm out of here.
Bye, Ted.
Bye.